All right. I believe we are live. Give me a second here. This is always like the critical moment. It's like we have everything set up, but do we? First of all, welcome everybody to today's session here. Just putting together. Okay, here we go. Welcome to our LinkedIn webinar here. It's Tuesday, March 3rd, about noon. The one thing I need to do, I'm always wondering if I'm actually or if it's actually live streaming. And so what I like to do is go to the event and just see if I'm live. And looks like I am live. Okay. I'm going to close that window. Cool. Thanks everybody for coming. My name is Toby Cryans. I'm having this amazing hair day. I'm actually grateful. I kind of, one of the, every now and then I get comments about my hair. And the problem isn't that I'm trying to be cool. The problem is I don't even think about it. I show up at a webinar and every now and then I'll get a comment saying, "What's with your hair?" Or "Your hair is," insert word here. But it's funny because I don't notice it until I'm sitting in front of a camera like this, and I go, "Oh yeah, hair exists, and it's on my head." Anyway, today we're going to be talking about the hidden costs of just one more plugin, and this is kind of an interesting thing. This session is geared towards really marketers or website owners who don't really know the tech, and so we're gonna the level of conversation will be, I'm not going to use a lot of jargon and stuff like that, but we are talking about WordPress specifically, and we're talking about plugins. And if you don't really know what a plugin is, that's fine. I'll just quickly summarize it. WordPress, if you don't install any plugins or any software on top of WordPress, it has pages, posts, menus. Basically, you can build a whole site with WordPress without installing a single plugin. What plugins do is they add additional functionality. So for some weird reason, WordPress does not ship with a form, a contact form. So you need a plugin for a contact form. If you want to do really anything SEO oriented, you need a plugin or 2 or 10, so that they just keep going up. If you want to track Google Analytics, well, you probably need a plugin for that. So a lot of sites we work on have between 15 and 30 plugins. That's kind of like a sweet spot. Some have 50 plugins. For example, you might have a form plugin that has an add-on for like form validation, for, I don't know, connection to Salesforce. Maybe it also connects to Zapier and does stuff. So these are, now you have a form plugin with 3 additional plugins attached to it. So now you have one form, 4 plugins. If you're running WooCommerce, that's where the plugin expansion happens exponentially, because you're going to need a plugin for pretty much everything you do in the e-commerce world. Out of the box, I can't remember for sure if WooCommerce requires a plugin just to accept payments, which is kind of funny because like you're an e-commerce plugin. I think it might accept Stripe payments and a couple other out of the box, but generally people don't stop there. Oh, you want to track shipping? You need a plugin for that. You want to do some sort of a login system? You're going to need some plugins, not one plugin, probably 3 or 4. So you can see like this starts adding up, and there are layers. For a basic marketing site, you probably can get by with 15 plugins, but for a WooCommerce site, you're easily going to have 30 plugins. And that's not even including like you need a theme that can probably support what you're doing, and maybe some custom plugins that you build yourself or have a developer build. So you can see already this plugin conversation gets kind of confusing out of the gate. And we're not really going to talk about WooCommerce and things. We're going to talk more high level, because I think we're going to give you some basic questions that you can ask your developer, and just kind of like get a better handle on what's going on. A lot of times, I'll start with this. You might ask your developer, to just log in, look at all the plugins, tell me if any can be deleted. This is not always a straightforward thing, by the way. There are some that can easily be deleted. If you go to your WordPress admin and click on plugins, I should just show you this. See if I can figure out how to show you this really quick. I'm going to log in here let's do tobycrines.com. I'll just show you what I have running on tobycrines.com, and maybe we can do some real-time, kind of analysis and whatnot. Okay, so let me see if I'm able to share, if I have the capability. So here's another thing. I want to share my screen. And one thing that is interesting about me, I'm actually very adept at website building and website editing. And it's funny, that doesn't always translate to these specific tools. And so part of the funny thing is all right, let's just do, I see what's going on here. I need to move this to a new window. Okay, here we go. Now I'm going to share this. I'm going to add to stage. There we go. So this is tobycrines.com. You can kind of see I got a bunch of stuff here. Let's just look at our plugins. And you can see already I have 10 plugins that need an update. And so every plugin that you install on your site comes with some overhead that you need to maintain. So you need to keep that software up to date, or else it's going to have higher potential of being hacked. Now I have my team doing these updates monthly, which means, since our last update, it could have been 30 days ago, I'm not sure exactly, but there's been a bunch of updates, and some of these updates might be security related updates. And so, for example, I'm just going to click here and see, and then I'm going to search for security or fix. Oh, I did see a security thing there. So version 10, on January 28th, they released a security fix. And January 14th, they released a security fix. So you can see like lots of security fixes in this plugin. And effectively what you need to do is click update now. The problem with clicking update now, and that's why I'm not going to do it on this session, is that you can cause your whole site to crash. And you just want to be prepared for that scenario. And by the way, one of the services that the Mighty Mo offers, the Mighty Mo being my company, is we manage this process for people. We keep the site secure. We ensure zero downtime, or something very close to zero downtime, throughout the process of updating plugins. And so we have a very robust plugin and theme update process. Additionally, today we were talking about upgrading PHP to a more secure version, and that's a different process that we manage for our clients a lot of times. But let's just go through this quick. One thing I'm seeing is I have 3 inactive plugins. Inactive plugins can always be deleted. And so you can see here, there's a couple speed optimization plugins. I'm just going to delete that one. I'm going to delete WP Rocket. And you know what? I'm just going to delete WordFence. I love WordFence as a plugin. I'm not sure why I disabled it. Maybe it was causing problems. I'm just going to delete it though, because I don't need it. It's not active, which means it's actively not being used. And then we'll go to all the plugins here. And so you'll see these ones need an update. I'm just kind of, Dinosaur Game. I forgot I installed that. Awesome. And I'm just kind of looking through these. And so how many plugins do I have here? I have 19 on what is a very basic WordPress site. Now, I'm guessing I could delete this Dinosaur Game plugin. I could delete Enable Media Replace. If I'm not, this is a very specific plugin that is used on this site not very often. I'm going to keep that installed because I know I use it here and there. Dinosaur Game is, I think this appears on the 404 pages, and totally unnecessary, but what fun for me to know it's there. Totally a pointless plugin, but now I can play a game on my 404 page. And I happen to love stuff like this, and you can see that. So I'm going to leave that plugin installed too, but you can see, like, if you go to your site and go to the plugins, you'll see probably a few that you can delete. Oftentimes it'll be like a migration plugin where like they migrated a site 3 years ago or 10 years ago, and the plugin is still there. Sometimes there'll be like a file manager plugin and you probably never used it, so you can delete that. One thing I see a lot in my work is multiple form plugins. You only need one form plugin. And so let's just get into that. Talk about form plugins, because this is a very specific thing I see over and over and over again. I think the most form plugins I've seen on a site is 5. And there have been times where they're actively using 4 different form plugins, and there is absolutely zero reason for this. If you have more than one form plugin, you can delete all the rest, but you might need to do some migrating. So you might need to contact your developer to say, like, how do we cull this down to one form plugin? There's a couple of good reasons for that. One is security, because less plugins means less software to maintain. You can more easily keep it secure. These plugins all slow down the site a little bit in theory. Maybe some slow it down a lot. It just kind of depends how efficient the plugin runs. And so there's always a chance that these plugins are slowing down the site. At minimum, the fact that they are active is slowing down the site. It might not be noticeable, or maybe it is. It kind of depends on the plugin and the hosting. In this case, you can see I have Gravity Forms. I have Gravity Forms Coupons add-on, Gravity Forms Stripe add-on. I know for a fact that I'm using all 2 of these add-ons to Gravity Forms, and Gravity Forms is one of many form plugins you can use. Git Updater. Yeah, so I'm kind of looking through these going, are there any I can clearly delete? And I'm not really seeing, I'm not sure what this plugin does, because I probably have stuff in there that I'm using, but I don't know. But again, if you see stuff that looks interesting or curious, you might want to contact your developer and just say, hey, can we get rid of this plugin? And it's not always straightforward to figure out if a plugin is actively being used, but sometimes it takes some legwork to figure out, but you can get there. Let's do, I'm looking through my notes here. Okay. Let's just talk about these warnings. If you see the yellow warning like this saying an update is available, you should absolutely, in the near future, make a plan to update that. If I wasn't on this meetup with you, what I would do is make a backup of my site. Then I would click these update buttons and effectively just cross my fingers. But if something went wrong, I could always revert to a backup. And by the way, that's part of our process. When I say we have a robust update process for this, we always back stuff up, and then we'll do it in staging. Like, we'll create a staging environment, update it all there. If it works good there, then we'll update it on live. And again, there's always some degree of crossing your fingers with this stuff. But the important thing is that you have a fallback plan in case something goes wrong. You will want to do this regularly as well. We recommend at least monthly. Monthly seems to be, just kind of like the industry standard for like what's a reasonable software patching cadence for WordPress. A month seems about right, and that's what pretty much everybody subscribes to, is 1 month. If you had a high value site, I mean, you might want to do it daily. You might want to do it weekly. And also, the more complex your site is, such as if you have if you have WooCommerce, the potential for updating plugins, breaking stuff goes up. One thing that I like to say as like an analogy of this is, if you ever have a cell phone, have you ever had it where you update, maybe it's let's say you have iOS and you update iOS, or you update the Android software, and it breaks some app. Some app no longer works, or it doesn't work the way you expected, or you update an app and it just doesn't work anymore. This stuff happens with your phone. Same things here. Plugins are the equivalent of apps in terms of the functionality. So you have your core functionality, which is Android or iOS. You have your apps, which do stuff. The plugins do the stuff. So that's kind of the analogy. And so you kind of have to be wary, particularly if your site is more complex or valuable. But that's all the more reason to do these updates, because the longer you wait, the more risk you're taking on, because you're just less secure, but also the harder it will be to upgrade later, because once you get beyond, like, let's say this version 12.23.1, it's going to be easy to update to 12.23.2. Like the potential for breaking changes are minimal, or 12.24. If you're just upgrading a .01 release, the odds that it's going to break something are very slim. But if this was like version 10 and I was updating to 12, it's highly likely that something's going to break. And you can see here, the current version I'm running is 9.11. The next version is 10.0. The current version is 10.0. This is pretty safe, 9.11 to 10.0. But sometimes we'll see, and this is because we do this monthly. However, sometimes we'll see on our client site, just like they're running version 1.1 and it's now on version 8.7. And you just know it's going to break stuff when you update. So I always just encourage people, once you get your site fully up to date, so contact your developer, have them update everything, and then do it monthly. And you can do this yourself as long as you coordinate a backup plan with your developer, or you can hire your developer to do it. But doing it regularly will save you money in the long term, especially when you compare the costs of getting hacked, which I want to say it's almost inevitable that you'll get hacked if you do not update your plugins. Some people will say default to less. I have this in my notes. There's this idea that fewer plugins is better. I don't necessarily subscribe to that as a full. I don't say, oh, fewer plugins is better. I say, like, what do you need? And because like I wrote a plugin today that does a very specific thing, and I made a choice to have it be an additional plugin rather than something that lives inside another plugin. And so it probably added a little tiny bit of delay to the page because it has to load something to know that it's there. But the advantage is that now I can like turn it off if I want very easily later, and I can better understand the code base. And so I'm not someone who like religiously says fewer is better, but I do think as a general rule, fewer is better. Let's talk about free plugins versus paid plugins. There are different categories of free plugins. Let's just start with free plugins. Let's just talk about form plugins specifically. I'm gonna just go to WordPress form plugins. Let's do WordPress.org. So WordPress.org is where all the free plugins for WordPress, I should say it's one free plugin marketplace for WordPress. And so here we go. All the plugins that have the tag of forms, and these are all free. There's 21 pages, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. So there's over 400 free WordPress plugins in this marketplace. 400 free WordPress form plugins, just form plugins. Last time I checked, there were over 60,000 plugins in this marketplace at WordPress.org. So keep that in mind. 400 different options. And this is where like a little bit of research might help. And WordPress.org does a good job of kind of telling you, one metric would be active installations. And so WP Forms is very popular, and there's at least 6 million active installations of this free plugin. Whereas Fluent Forms only has 600,000 active installations. So this has 10 times more. So in theory, and this is not like hard and fast, obviously, but in theory, WP Forms as a company has more invested and more to gain and to lose. And so in theory, they will, hopefully do a better job of securing the plugin. But let's just take a look at a couple other metrics here. So this has 6 million active WordPress sites. They have 13,000 5-star, 300 1-star. And so this looks pretty good. Like I'm looking at this, 6 million sites. The vast majority are, 5-star. So, and the other thing you can look at is their support and see how supportive are they. You can see 22 hours ago, 22 hours. So it looks like they're supporting this thing regularly. So that's another good metric. Also, I look at last updated 6 hours ago. So these are all great metrics just to kind of look at a high level, like when was it last updated? What are the reviews? and how much support are they offering? How much free support in this forum are they offering? And you can see they even have, this is what free support means. If you want something else, if you want more than free support, you can buy support from them effectively. And so that's one way to kind of determine what plugin to use. Now, the plugin I'm using, Gravity Forms, is not even in here, and they only have it for sale. And so in order to get Gravity Forms, you have to come here. You cannot get a free version. And so that's something to keep in mind too. Some of the best plugins are not even available in this marketplace on WordPress.org. They don't have a free version. And so you might say, well, why don't you just get a free version? Well, I could, but I can almost guarantee you that you're going to end up paying for whatever form plugin. These are just gateway drugs to the paid versions. I don't know specifically. Let's see if they outline what the pro version is. They don't. Might have to. Let's see if it says here. It's hard to even figure out what's included in free versus paid, but I can almost guarantee you're going to want the paid version, whatever the features are. That's just how these things work. These are freeware. Is it called freeware, where there's like an upgrade path? I guarantee you're going to upgrade at some point. And in this case, I'm like, for $59. And I think I actually, I think I have the Elite license. I don't know if it does different, but anyway, for $59, you can kind of like be like, all right, I'm just assuming that I'm going to need some of the paid stuff. And I'm guessing WP Forms paid pricing is similar. Let's see. Yeah, so they have a basic for $49. So you're right in that wheelhouse. You're going to end up paying this $49 anyway. So I always think, like, in terms of forms, I would go straight to the paid version, or assume you're going to pay for it. There are, if you think of like WooCommerce, this is another place where there are lots of paid and lots of free things. WooCommerce is WordPress's e-commerce solution, and it's by far the most widely adopted e-commerce platform in the world. Let's look at extensions. Extensions are plugins. And so already you can see like the verbiage is getting tricky here, but extension equals plugin, exact same thing. It's literally a plugin. So Facebook extension is a Facebook plugin. So just keep that in mind. And you can see lots of these will be free too, but they almost all have an upgrade path. A lot of these aren't free though. You can see here, like this one's $279 annually. And so let's just let's search for Stripe, which is probably the most widely used payment platform in the world for websites. And you can see Stripe, the company, now we're on WooCommerce's website. So now we're already on a proprietary marketplace called WooCommerce.com, which is owned by Automatic, which owns WordPress.com. And the owner of Automatic owns WordPress.org. So this is kind of like this, basically all this money is going into one guy's pocket. And that's okay. I'm not criticizing that, but that's the reality of it. But you can see here. So I searched for Stripe. And you might want to do like developed by Woo, because in theory, now this isn't always true, but in theory, the ones developed by Woo will be supported. They have just more to lose, more to gain, that sort of thing. But you can see some of the star ratings on these are really bad. And so I would definitely keep that in mind. And this one only has 5 reviews, which means not a lot of people are using it. And most of the reviews are bad. So this is just another way to filter. You could search by show me free and official payments, whatever that is. Maybe it's just ones that the WooCommerce company has, decided are reputable, or maybe the official payment plugins are the ones that are paying the WooCommerce company. We don't know. It's all opaque at this point. But here's Stripe by Stripe. Presumably this is Stripe.com that's building this and supporting it. But again, average rating is 3. That's not a great rating. But nonetheless, this is probably the one I would use because it's by Stripe, which is the company. It's also free. What I was wondering was, are there Stripe plugins that aren't free? And it looks like there might not be. So something to keep in mind there. But again, like this is just, it's like Amazon. You just kind of want to be thoughtful about how you select plugins. Let's, you know what we should do is, I'm thinking, let's go to another site here. I'm going to go to themightymo.com, which is our site. I'm just going to go show you the plugin stack there because I think it has way more plugins than tobycrines.com. Let's just take a quick look. Oh, it also has some interesting stuff. So I'm gonna throw it up here. Throw it up, puke it up. You'll see immediately I'm gonna go to inactive. Now, a lot of these, I'm just gonna delete these. They're not being used. And I encourage you to do the same thing. Like I really like these plugins, but they're currently not being used. So why have them if they're not being used? This one I'm going to keep. I'm not sure why we have that. Again, like at some point, this plugin was created by me, and so, or a member of my team, and I'm guessing it has something interesting in it. So I'm just going to leave it just so I can check it later. But again, I just deleted 5 plugins that now I've reduced my security risk. You know, my attack vector or whatever has been reduced. And so now you can see everything is up to date on this. So we must have updated all these recently, but I'm kind of going through here now, and I've been through here. I go through here regularly and we do a lot of work on this site. This is a plugin I created yesterday. So if we end up not using this, I'm just going to delete the plugin. But this is, again, like I could have put it in our functional plugin, but I decided to put it here. That way it's easier to manage. We use Beaver Builder, so we have a handful of Beaver Builder plugins. So we have at least 3 Beaver Builder plugins plus a theme, and so it gets kind of bulky there. But Post Type Switcher, probably not used very often, but I'm going to leave it in. Plugin Notes Plus, totally not necessary, especially we're not even using. Plugin Notes Plus lets you add notes here on the right. Looks like we're not using it. Oh, we're using it right here. So I'm going to leave it because I kind of noted in 2024 how we're using this plugin. And so we have our SEO plugin. Sometimes you'll have multiple SEO plugins or multiple Google Analytics plugins. This happens over years. You know, you have a different developer, they install it. So that's one thing you could ask your developer, hey, do we have multiple SEO plugins? Do we have multiple Google Analytics plugins? Do we have multiple Google Search Console? Do we have any other HubSpot or anything like that that we're not even subscribed to anymore? And you could take a look and then ask your developer to take a look again. You can see on this site, wow, we have lots of Gravity Forms add-ons. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 Gravity Forms add-ons or plugins. So one form, effectively one, we actually have lots of forms, but one form plugin, 8 add-ons or so. Google Tag Manager. This is one, now that I'm looking at it, I'm like, I think there's no need for the plugin if you're a developer. I'm not sure why we're using the plugin because we could easily code this, or I should say in a straightforward way, code this into our theme or a different or functional plugin. So as a more senior developer, I'm looking at this going, I might make a note for my team and say, hey, we don't need this plugin. Just whatever it's doing, just put it in the theme code or in our functional plugin code. Email log, you know, that's an optional one that I see on a lot of sites. Sometimes you'll have more than one of these because over the years, you just kind of, someone else installs it. And so you might want to check that. And this can cause a lot of bloat. And so you'll want to view the logs and delete your logs if you're using that. Code snippets. I'm not a big fan of these code snippet plugins. I'm guessing a member of my team installed this because I can't imagine I would have installed it. I'm just going to look at the snippets here. And you can see we're doing one. Yeah, somebody did it 5 days ago. There's no way I had this installed. So Splide, we're working on some slideshow problem, and clearly that's what's going here. So I'm going to leave that because I know one of my teammates is actively working on code. And now that I see this, I might have a conversation, say, why aren't you just coding somewhere else. It's just weird to me to put it in a plugin like this. But I should say this plugin's fine if you don't know how to write code and you're just copying and pasting. But if someone knows how to write code, it's really preference too. Like every coder has their own coding preferences. And even if you don't know code, every WordPress site manager has their own preferences. And so while I'm like, this is ridiculous, some other person on my team who has a great amount of experience and whom I rely on and trust fully has a different opinion on when to use this plugin. And so that's kind of something funny and interesting and quite frankly curious, and something I love about my job is that I get to to kind of do those things. Here's a plugin. I know that we're not using this. I'm just going to deactivate it for now. I think, you know what? We might be using that for SEO. So this is a thing too, where like, sometimes I'm like, I don't think we're using it, but I should really ask my team. Apparently we're using a broken link checker from WP Mood Dev, but I'm also curious, like, are we actually using it? This could just be cruft that we could get rid of, because we use another broken link checker now, and I think this just might be an old thing, but I'm going to leave it for now and check on it later. There you go. And so Beaver Builder Mega Menu, Beaver Builder plugin, Beaver Themer. These are Beaver Builder related, obviously, but there's another couple that we're using down here. So we're using at least these 5 plugins plus the theme. So that's, again, 5 or 6 plugins for one feature is, as long as it's an important feature, it's pretty common. Better Search Replace. This is a plugin that I use in very specific instances. I know I can delete it and reactivate it regularly, so I'm just going to do that. I'm just going to delete it. Again, with plugins, we're just looking to ask questions, like we're trying to make our site more efficient, decrease the attack surface, so you can get hacked less often. And again, I always think the best thing you can do to protect yourself from a hack is to have a solid backup process. And so this site that we're looking at right now is it's backed up every night, and we keep 90 days of backups. So it could get hacked. I mean, the Iranian nuclear facility was hacked, even though it wasn't connected to the internet, which is just wild to think about. And that's a great story, by the way. If you want to read like a neat, 21st century hacking story, I think it happened in the early aughts or something, but the US effectively hacked a nuclear facility that was not online, and it's just wild. And so if that can happen, I'm always like, my site can clearly get hacked. Think of like some state-sponsored computer software. Yeah, sure, no problem. So I always think the best defense we have is like consumers. The best reasonable defense is a solid backup. And we keep 90 days of the mightymo.com, and we offer that as a service. We can also keep 90 days of anyone's as part of our service. And so what we tell people is these are catastrophic backups that we're keeping nightly, and it's pretty straightforward for us to restore. And so let's say you were hacked today and you find out about it in 2 months because your Google listing says that you're a Cialis dealer or a Viagra dealer, which is, by the way, a common way that people figure out their site is hacked. They go, why does Google think I'm a Cialis dealer or a Viagra dealer? Or recently it's been a lot of gambling. Why does Google think my site is a gambling site? And inevitably they've been hacked. But what we do is, the most proactive thing that you can do as a site owner is just keep solid backups. If you don't know if you have backups, ask your developer, ask what the policy is. Ideally, at least 30 days. I say 90 days is what I aim for a minimum. And if you want, you can contact me. It's relatively cheap. We can get you into our system if you just need catastrophic backups. So that's all I got for today. Looks like maybe there's some comments. Oh, wow. Kurt Von Annen's here. Sorry, Kurt, I just saw your comments there. Kurt is, he says he can fix my hair thing. Fantastic. By the way, Kurt, you should check out, Kurt and I do a podcast once a week at thewpminute.com. So you can definitely check that out as well. We're going to do these every other week or so here on LinkedIn. We have one coming up in 2 weeks from today. They're generally focused on marketing people, it's like consumables for marketing people and business owners or WordPress developers potentially, but really we try to speak at oh, Kurt's still here. All right. I can't figure out how to comment. So we'll be here every couple of weeks. So I hope you join us. We're going to, if you feel free to DM me here on LinkedIn, or you can go to themightymo.com and you can connect there if you'd like. So thanks again. Great to be here with you. Hope you have a great rest of the day, rest of the week. And we'll see you when we see you.